Thank you, Stephen, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope I can live up to that lengthy introduction. I apologise for not being Lord Deben, who was called to urgent business in the US and was actually going to take this slot. But as he was going to speak from the perspective of Chair of the Committee on Climate Change, I'm doing this in my role as a member of the Committee on Climate Change, giving some observations on the value of LowCVP. But first of all, since I do have a history with this organisation, having been launch director, I think I just want to say a few personal words right at the start. Because when we launched the partnership, I think it was in Millbank Tower about 10 years ago, I don't think I could have imagined that I would have been coming back in 10 years' time, looking forward to the next 10 years of the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership. I think the endurance and the durability of the partnership is, be a testimony to the people who've actually worked with it. I think one of the secrets of it is it's had a structure that's been flexible and adaptable. There are a lot of fashions in vehicle technology, and I do remember when we were kicking off, the hydrogen economy was manifest destiny, and as I was putting it together, you'd get calls from number 10 saying, how's the hydrogen vehicle partnership getting on? And you'd say, it's not the hydrogen vehicle partnership, it's the low carbon vehicle partnership, which I think has stood us instead. But just going on to the Committee on Climate Change perspective, just to flag up why we think the LowCVP is interesting. We're independent of government, we report directly to Parliament, and we work within the framework of the very ambitious 80% greenhouse gas emission reduction targets that are built into the Climate Change Act. And we've got two jobs that we have to carry out under the Climate Change Act. The first one is to recommend carbon budgets that now stretch out into the mid-2020s. And to recommend these carbon budgets, we have by statute to take account of the availability of technology, costs and impacts on UK competitiveness. Our second job is to monitor the progress annually and report to Parliament on it. And for that, we have to use detailed indicators of progress, many of which actually refer to the surface transport sector. So there are two reasons there about why LowCVP and associated activities are important. And I just want to flag up three reasons why we find the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership activities helpful. And I apologise if it repeats a couple of the things that were in the video that you've just seen. But the first one is that surface transport matters because, as Norman Baker said upstairs, it accounts for about a quarter of greenhouse gas emissions. And one of the key indicators that the committee uses to measure progress is the carbon intensity of new vehicles coming onto the market. And we are delighted to have looked over the last couple of years and seen that progress is actually faster than the indicative trajectory that the committee set. So some real successes, I think, for the medium-term future with progress with conventional vehicles. But the committee also has a bigger narrative about the long-term future for energy and carbon in the UK, which is about decarbonising electricity, using electricity and alternative fuels in more sectors. So the other question, I think, is the promotion of alternative fuel vehicles, which, of course, the LowCVP is helping to do through the Innovation Working Group and the Fuels Working Group. So very important activities. Second point that came out from the film is the alignment of economic and environmental issues and how important that is. The LowCVP came out of a recommendation of the Automotive Innovation and Growth Team, which majored on environmental issues. And so this did not come from the environmental NGOs, it came from the industry sector, this focus on low carbon. And given the fact that the Committee on Climate Change has to think about cost and competitiveness, that alignment of the environmental and economic agendas is really incredibly important. And I hope that the partnership's activities have played some role in helping to encourage the impressive amounts of inward investment that have taken place in the UK over the last decade. And the final point really relates to analysis on evidence, because the Committee on Climate Change is very committed to an evidence-based approach and very strong analysis. We've got a secretariat of 25 very clever young people who are helping us do the work, and their interactions with the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership and with the people who participate in it have actually been very critical. So again, this role of evidence and analysis is extremely important. Now, before I finish, I'd just like to say one other thing. Given that we have very ambitious climate change targets in the UK, and let's not kid ourselves that 80% is not difficult, we need wide buy-in around society. We need people from different sectors to work together. And it seems to me that the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership has achieved that and kind of symbolises what could be done. When we were kicking off the partnership, it was actually open. We had a two-line recommendation under the Powering Future Vehicles strategy, and besides that, it was a blank piece of paper. And one option was to go for a very narrow partnership that was deeply focused with lots of complicated intellectual property agreements. And after a lot of consultation, we decided that the broad stakeholder-based arrangement was the one that would serve the UK best. And I really do think that the partnership over the last 10 years has sort of fulfilled that promise and the risk-taking that actually came from it. So I think the partnership has been enormously successful. I think those who have been nominated for the prizes tonight should be proud of where they got to. I guess the winners should be even more proud about the contribution that they're actually making. But just in closing, I would like to thank Neville and Andy, wish them all the best for the future moving forward. They're building on the foundations that Graham Smith from Toyota and Greg Archer, who's also here tonight, actually started. And I'm actually delighted to see in the audience my co-conspirators from back in 2002, 2003, Constanza Scharing from SMMT and Leslie Packer, who was then at the Department for Transport. So I'll finish there. If I had a glass in my hand, I would raise a toast to the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership and indeed hope it's going to be there in another 10 years' time to have another celebration. But thank you for attention. I do really wish the partnership the best for the future.